Hi, I'm Clint Greider, Chief Integration Officer at Oxano, and I'm delighted to be with you today. One of the areas I help lead at Oxano is organizational execution and leadership. And it's a lot of fun for me because I love digging in with leaders to figure out if what they're focusing on is having the maximum possible impact that it could. And, you know, as we talk about this area of strategy, I love finding studies and digging into the research, and I saw one recently of 3,500 global leaders. Now, these were leaders of companies that you would recognize, some of the highest leaders out there, and they were asked about strategy anonymously. And they came back, and the majority said that they don't believe that their staffs understand their strategy, and furthermore, they don't believe that their strategy is even going to result in success. It's not even going to achieve what is intended. And so it really is a reminder to us of the importance of having a clearly articulated strategy, but then taking it a step further in the implementation process. So as you enter into the test drives of your strategy here in the next few weeks and months, there's several things that we need to be reminded of. Congratulations on landing your strategy. Way to go. It's hard work, and that is really the first step that you have accomplished to achieving this kind of breakthrough clarity. Let's take a look at a few things related to strategy. Now remember, strategy is where Joe goes, all right? So these are places that we're sending people. It's a pathway, it's a process. But as we look at the different activities within the church, we've got to remember that busyness does not equal progress. Busyness does not equal progress. You might remember the study that your navigator shared with you that looked at activities, the number of activities that folks are involved in at church and how that related to their spiritual growth. You would think that as the number of activities increased, that spiritual growth would also increase. And actually, the study found something quite different. As activities increased, growth went up at first, but then it leveled off and actually was detrimental, actually ended up going down. Now, why was that? Well, in large part, it's because we have a tendency to spread ourselves too thin when we're involved in too much. Remember that people will only give us about 2 to 3 time slots a week in our churches on average. Now we know there's exceptions to that, but we have to be conscious of taking advantage of the time that we have. Busyness does not equal progress. The second point I wanted to remind you of is that just going to something doesn't mean you're going to grow. Going does not equal growing automatically. Remember the numbers exercise you did with your navigator. Remember that page that had all the numbers on it, and it felt like this kind of soup of all these unrelated activities on the page. And so think about this for a second. Remember, someone could come into the church, especially someone who might be new to church, and they say, hey, I go to this thing called worship every now and then, so that's okay. And maybe this is a young woman, and she is saying, gosh, look at this great women's ministry thing here, this chocolate and chat. I like chocolate, so I'm going to go to that, all right? I checked that off the list, and I'm going to send my son to this student ministry thing. It's an amusement park or some kind of social, and this is awesome. This is great. We're active members, actively involved in this church, when the reality is there may not be much spiritual growth going at all, which is the importance of defining your strategy into the quadrants. Remember to lead with quadrants to help people know what the pathway is. Remember, strategy gives a regular pattern, an expected pattern of involvement. The third concept I wanted to remind you of is that just because something is simple doesn't make it simplistic. A simple strategy should not be a simplistic strategy. There's this temptation in our churches where we have this wonderful language and articulation, and we say, look how beautiful this sounds, and we say it over and over again. Maybe we even put it on the wall, and we look at it. It's kind of like we put it in a trophy case, and that's the last thing we want. We don't want this to go in a trophy case. We want this to be a tool that we use and that we're actively engaged in. Instead, think of your strategy as an opportunity for a laboratory. You as leaders, as shepherds in your church, need to look at this and say, how do we consistently go deeper and deeper to help our people grow in the spiritual formation measures that you'll define as part of your vision frame? So you'll know the kinds of things that you need to measure and that you want to take people deeply in your strategy elements. Enjoy the test drives that you're about to go in. Thank you for your leadership at your church. God bless you.